We want to be known as partners and to be known as people that come in and make a real impact into organisations, because a lot of the time, if, for example, you put in mental health first aiders into your workplace, that's fantastic. But if you're doing it to tick a box, then it's unlikely to give you any return on investment. Whereas if you work with us to create infrastructure, to talk about best practice, to consider your working practices and what's there to support your mental health first aiders, as well as ensuring that they're the right type of people that are going to help people to come out and want to speak to them. So it's those kinds of things that we really see a big difference. And when wellbeing strategies don't exist, you also see that any training, managers training, leadership skills training, all of that, it just falls because the culture isn't there. And so that's really where we feel that we can make the biggest positive impact in workplaces.
So this is the Stronger Business Together podcast, where business owners learn from each other's experiences. No theory, no guru, just real journeys and overcoming real hurdles. Today, I'm joined by Claire Bennett, who runs Hornbeam Workplace Wellbeing. Like every other owner, she's in that middle of building things, fixing things, and growing something that really matters. So, welcome, Claire.
Hello.
So, Act 1, let's learn all about your business. In plain English, what does your business do?
So we are a training and consultancy company, but we very specifically work in the area of mental health and wellbeing in the workplace, which of course includes a large proportion of inclusion, is a very important part of what we do. So we offer consultancy services looking to demystify what workplace wellbeing and inclusion is, because there's lots of misunderstandings about it. There's lots of fear around that particular area of getting things wrong and how much is it going to cost and all of those kind of things. So we really help businesses to kind of streamline that, understand what the legal requirements are, but also some of the moral supports and the things that create a much more inclusive and productive workplace. So we look at all of that, and then we also then bring in our training, which complements those consultancy services. And so the training is licensed and accredited. So we've got mental health first aid. We cover off suicide first aid. We look at line manager training. And as well as just increasing the understanding of mental health and wellbeing in the workplace and inclusion. So we look at all of those different things, support an organisation to maybe consider their strategy and what they're going to do moving forward with events that they might decide to run, webinars or full-blown training programs. So lots and lots of different things that we cover off.
Brilliant. Wow. So many different things. So who do you love helping and what are they typically dealing with?
So do you know what? Most people come to us because they've got maybe sickness challenges with stress, or they have some challenges with individuals within the organisation where there's maybe high stress levels, or maybe they've got productivity challenges around that. So quite often it will start with stress, I find, most of the conversations. And then you might also have it where I, for example, have a one particular client that came to us and approached us to help us with their entire strategy because they just didn't know where to start. They didn't feel that internally they had the expertise or understood what they needed to look at. So we've really gone from the very ground up, and we've been working together for over a year now, and we haven't got to the training bit yet, but that's all planned for this year. But really started to figure out where they are now and what we can do to support them moving forward. So the people that we support it's a vast array of different industries and different backgrounds and different sizes of organisations too.
Quite a big range, not a range of services and a range of things as well. Okay, so how did you start the business? What was that original spark?
So it's interesting. So I worked for an organisation for 11 years, did loads of kind of work in leadership skills training, presenting, facilitating. I was a line manager myself for, all of the time that I worked for that organisation. And I'd got to the point where I really felt like I needed more of a balance. I did a lot of travel. I also travelled globally because it was a very large organisation. And so for me, there were the kind of two things. I had the opportunity to take redundancy. And so I decided that after 11 years, that was probably the best route for me. So I took that redundancy, found some balance, meaning because I've got young children. And so I wanted to obviously be around more for them. They were in childcare a lot of the time, whereas when I was able to manage my own time commitments, it gave me that balance. They're a little bit older now because I started my business 6 years ago. So we're now in a position where it seems to work much, much better, and I can dedicate a bit more time to the organisation. But it really started because my best friend lives with a mental health illness. She had a very poor experience in a workplace where she became very unwell as a result of treatment that she had in that particular workplace. And there were some real consequences for both the organisation and her from a health perspective, but also from a legal standpoint. And so for me, there were no winners in that particular situation. And so I just felt that no organisation should have to go through that, and no person should have to go through that either. Because actually, we know that the workplace, when it is a safe environment, can be a huge part of somebody's recovery. It can be a huge part of someone's self-purpose and their drive and their motivation, and seeps into lots of different parts of our lives. So I fundamentally felt like I could make a difference there, and that's where Hornbeam came from.
Wow, a fascinating start. Yeah, I can really see that why and that drive that you've put in place to make that happen. Fantastic. Well, I mean, not fantastic reason, but fantastic that you picked that up and drove that forwards. Why do your customers pick you? How do you delight them?
That's an interesting one. I think so. When my business first started, we were just purely training. So we didn't offer consultancy services. That has grown, and I'll talk about that a little bit later. But when we first started, the training was something that I loved to do, and I get a huge amount of joy out of it. I love watching people go, oh, right, okay, I get it, I see, and actually remove the fear. Because if you think about the topics that I talk about, mental health, crisis, stress, all of those things have quite a negative message. And actually, there's a huge amount of fear because people feel like they're going to do something wrong or they're going to make the situation worse. And when we go through that training and we really start to see the change in the thought process around it and improving the confidence and belief that actually a sensitive, open conversation can make a massive difference. And so I love delivering that. And I think that comes across in my delivery. And I have a great team of associates that work with me who have the same passion and drive that I do. And so actually we're known for the quality of our training, and we're known for taking it that step further, which is then where the consultancy came from, because we weren't just rocking up and doing some sheep dip training. This was impactful training that made a tangible difference in an organization. And so I think that's what we're known for.
Excellent. So tell me about a customer success that you're proud of.
Oh, God, I've got quite a few. So I think there is one particular customer that I am working with at the moment that started by coming to me saying we have really high levels of absences due to stress. They work in a very stressful sector. It's publicly known that particular sector is quite challenging. It's a public sector organisation, and there's a huge amount of pressure in that environment. And so we've been working together for a year now. We started with measuring where we currently were, and we did employee welfare surveys, satisfaction surveys. Let's have a look at where everybody was. And as a starting point from that, we have done a whole project of work for the last 12 months. And what we've seen is a massive improvement in terms of focus on well-being, understanding that well-being is part of everything that we do, as in every working practice needs to consider whether well-being is being thought through. Every communication that you have with members of staff and customers, are we thinking about well-being when we're doing that? Are we considering the impact of our decisions? So we've done a whole structure of work, and I'm really proud of that because we've recently redid the survey. And whilst we've still got more to do, we're going to be spending the next year really honing down some of those processes that we've put in place, as well as complementing that with some training and upskilling for some of the staff members, especially the leadership teams. And we're really looking forward to doing that. But where we've got to from where it was, they've seen a massive reduction in their sickness absence. We've seen people recognizing, so through the survey, we've seen a massive increase in recognition of understanding what wellbeing is and that it is a priority for the organisation, and they can see it in leadership behaviours. And those were the things which were really kind of low when we looked at it last time. And we've seen a significant uptake in that this time. So that's helping drive us and motivate us now for the next 12 months, which is our next kind of project to really make it a fantastic working environment. So whilst we're not there yet, I'm still really proud of where we've come, because it wasn't a great picture and now we're in a much better place.
Wow, that's brilliant. Well done you. Yeah, they must be really delighted with that progress and going forward. So fantastic story. Thank you for sharing.
No problem.
Now, every business, we need leads, because leads then we can then process and develop into sales. Okay, how do you generate leads within your business?
I'm not sure I've fully figured it out yet. I've got to be honest. I think there are some of my larger clients, it's been word of mouth. So previous clients have recommended, and we actually have quite a few of where that's happening. So we have been the preferred supplier for mental health first aid training, for example. So in the last 12 months, I've got 4 new clients who have switched to Hornbeam from previous suppliers for that particular course, which is fantastic. And again, that's come from word of mouth. They have spoken to people who have either been on our courses or have worked with us before. So recommendation has been a really good one. But also for me, I think networking has been a great place for me to start to speak to people. So if I have the opportunity to get up in front of people and talk about the organisation, then I do that as much as possible. I speak at lots of events to try and raise awareness and raise the profile of the organisation. So for me at the moment, those are the 2 that bring in most of our leads. But having said that, I know that we've got gaps elsewhere. So digitally, are we in the right places? Are we reaching the right people? Not many people find us through our website, for example. So we've definitely got work to do. But at the moment, though, recommendations and connecting with people personally have been the drivers of late.
Fantastic. And recommendations is one of the strongest ones, because you're more likely to convert that into a sale when somebody actually says, you need to go and speak to Claire, you need to work with Claire and Hornbeam, because look at what we've achieved, and that they are the strongest types of leads that you can have. Fantastic. So what are you aiming for your business in the next 12 months? Why are you doing that? What's your aim?
I think our aim is really to grow the consultancy side of the organisation. I absolutely will continue with the training. It's a core part of our services, and actually we offer a lot of training to people that have well established strategies in place. They may not benefit from consultancy because they have really great infrastructure, and therefore our training lands well and the impact is what we want it to be. But I think for the next 12 months, the real focus is we don't want to be known as a sheep dip training company. We want to be known as partners, and we want to be known as people that come in and make a real impact into organizations. And for me, that's where the consultancy comes in, because a lot of the time, if, for example, you put in mental health first aiders into your workplace, that's fantastic. But if you're doing it to tick a box, then it's unlikely to give you any return on investment. Whereas if you work with us on consultancy to create infrastructure, to talk about best practice, to consider your working practices and what's there to support your mental health first aiders, as well as ensuring that they're the right type of people that are going to help people to come out and want to speak to them. If you train all managers, great, train managers in mental health conversations, absolutely. But if you have only managers as mental health first aiders, you've created a barrier straight away. So it's those kinds of things that we really see a big difference. And when wellbeing strategies don't exist, you also see that any training, managers training, leadership skills training, all of that, it just falls because the culture isn't there. And so that's really where we feel that we can make the biggest positive impact in workplaces.
Brilliant. I like that. That pivot to try and add more value to your clients, to your new clients. So actually it all fits together and makes it work. part of that is training, but a large part of that is just getting it all organised so it works succinctly in a business. Fantastic. Well, I look forward to seeing that over the next 12 months, how you develop that. So let's move on to Act 2 now, the journey, how you became the owner you are today. So how would you describe the past years of your business? What were the highs and lows?
I think the highs are getting new customers. In a small business, one customer says, I want to work with you. That is a celebration, right? That's huge. Larger organizations, a new customer comes on board and it might even not even generate any kind of thought. But in a small business, it is like the biggest thing. It's amazing. So every time somebody new comes to work with us, or we get more bookings from existing clients, or they keep coming back and asking for more, that for me are the highs. That's where I really feel that we're driving the difference that we want to create. Okay, so those are definitely the highs. And when we get amazing feedback from our clients, which we ask for regularly, every course that is delivered has feedback. We will formalize that feedback as well, so that we're constantly looking at how can we improve? Are we missing something? Do we need to add something? So for me, those are the real highs, because when we get those positives, even when you get a negative actually in feedback, it allows you to adapt. And when you're a smaller organization, of course, sometimes that's easier to do than if you're a big organization where you've got maybe lots of red tape to get through. So I would say those are some of the highs. The lows are months where you've got no bookings and where you're sat there thinking, oh my gosh, the sometimes sleepless nights about where the next invoice is coming in, or invoices not being paid on time, those kinds of things. Those are the challenges. I think the other challenge, which is important to recognize, is that sometimes it can be quite lonely when you run a business, especially with my particular model, which is an associate model. So I've got lots of colleagues and I use amazing people to help me run my business and to work in my business. But it is still predominantly me on my own, working individually with my clients. And if you're someone that really valued that team feel, which I definitely did when I, worked for other organizations, it can be quite a lonely place. So, you have to find other ways to get that connection so that you have got that person to go, I'm having a really tough time. I need some help. Or look what I did. Check me out. I did this and it's amazing. And just to get that support.
Yeah, absolutely. Human connection is such an important part, and we think we're the business owners, we're shouldering it all, but actually just that little bit of connection really helps to bring it home and to help it. So what have you learned about yourself and your business through those difficult times, those hard times?
And what have I learned? Probably that I'm more resilient than I thought I was, especially when I first started this business, because I didn't have any clients. And 3 weeks after I registered the business, COVID hit. I was like, oh, great, brilliant. So I had that first year was really stressful, because my plans of how I was going to go out and get these clients when there was no opportunity to connect with people, or minimal at the time, for the first few months anyway. It was really hard until things started to move online, and then that's where you could start to kind of move it forward. But definitely my resilience, I would say, is something that I've learned about myself. I am more resilient than I think I am, and more resourceful, because there has had to be things that I've had to figure out how to do that on my own, or find someone that can help me deliver it. Whereas if you're used to working in an organization where you've got Joe Bloggs who does your IT, or you've got Helen up the road who does this, you just don't have that, and you've got to build that from the beginning. So I think maybe I'm a better problem solver than I thought I was also.
Yes, I understand that. So, I mean, where do things still go wrong when you're under pressure then?
My stress levels still soar, and sometimes I might put things off that I probably need to deal with quicker, maybe because I'm trying to give myself some space to figure out what to do next. And so sometimes I have to keep grounding myself and reminding it's okay. You've got this network. You've got someone that can help you with that. Someone that can help you with this. Whereas I didn't have that at the beginnings. Whilst you still have all of those challenges, you still have those times, traditionally in training companies, there'll be periods of time where less training comes in, anything to do with school holidays and things like that. It's going to get quieter because most organizations stay away from those for training because, of course, most of their staff are on holidays. So you have to kind of account for some of that. And I think, it's sometimes I can still sit there going, I don't know what to do. And I have to remind myself I do actually know what to do and who to go to, and you're okay.
Fantastic. What's one thing maybe you've stopped doing to make it easier and simpler when you just said, you realise didn't need to do that. Why was I doing it? Give us an example, maybe.
Well, actually, I think it's more about building in that kind of structure. So instead of previously, I would have sat there for ages trying to figure out how to do something. What I now do is I go to the people who know how to do those things instead of wasting my time trying to do them. So for example, I've got a VA now, and she's like my right arm because there are certain things that I haven't got the headspace for. I don't have time to do them. And actually, I don't know how to do them very quickly. And it would probably take me hours longer to do it than it would if I just picked up the phone and said, can you help me? Same with IT. For a long time, I would just try to figure it out myself when it came to IT challenges. But now I have an IT person and I can just pick up the phone and say, my laptop's not working today and I need to deliver training, help me. And they can help me, where I didn't kind of have that before. So I would say, I've stopped thinking that I have to do every single thing and know that there are people out there that can do it far more efficiently and much better than I can do it. And I can then spend my time doing the stuff I need to do.
Fantastic. I really like that. And that's an important thing you have to realise when you're building a business, and finding the right people around you that can do those elements that maybe sap your energy, but they're good at doing those things. So, brilliant.
Yeah.
Right, let's move on to Act 3, our hurdle or challenge. So what have you picked for our discussion today?
So mine is about how to continue to build on the consultancy side of the organisation, because I feel quite passionately that that's the right way to go. But I've also got to continue with my training element. One, because it is, our fundamental source of revenue. It's what we're known for as well. Plus, I really value it, and I don't want it to disappear from the organisation. It's a very, very important service that we offer. But when you're trying to grow that one side and still having to deliver that, I think that's probably the biggest hurdle.
Okay, so it's this approach that we need to do. We need to add more service, the consultancy, to the business that will then complement the training activity. And it's how do we make that happen in the day job, running the business? Okay, so let's break it down first. Today, how much time do you spend on lead generation and delivering training versus lead generation on consultancy and delivering consultancy? What's the split?
It's probably 70-30 at the moment. So 70% of the time is more training. I still deliver a lot of that myself, as well as obviously trying to generate more opportunities for training. And then the consultancy is probably 30 because that's a relatively newer service. And whilst we developed what the fundamental core service is, and we've now got clients that are using that service, which is amazing, but we want to try and build that, because the way I visualize it is, our training complements the consultancy. We will still have standalone training clients, of course, but we need that for me just feels like the right thing to do. And so I'm quite passionate about driving that element. So 70-30 split at the moment.
And what would be, just theorizing looking forward, what would be an ideal split of time and activity?
I think I would like to try and get to a 50-50 for now, but that would eventually get to the point where actually maybe it tips more towards a 60-40 towards the consultancy, and then the delivery of the training becomes part of that consultancy service as well, if you see what I mean.
Yeah. So if we set our initial target condition of 50-50 time spent, So what's happening today, if you just looked at your diary and you stood there right now looking at it and said, right, 50% of my time must be spent on lead generation and delivering on consultancy, what's getting in the way to make that happen?
Delivery of training, that
Okay.
definitely is. So actually delivering the training myself. Also, I'm finding, and whilst this is still actually part of the core consultancy bit, what I am finding is that the consultancy clients that we have are very broad in terms of their sector. So one of the things that I've identified recently is that our core service is having to be redeveloped whilst we're delivering, because we might have to niche it for certain sectors where some of the things need to be tweaked for it to be applicable for that particular area, or it needs to be considered and maybe we have to add something else in because of the maybe unique challenges that that particular sector might have, or that particular industry if it's within the private sector. And so I think even within that, some of my time when I'm looking at the consultancy, I probably spend more time tweaking and delivering that than I do on the lead generation for it.
Okay. So you're spending more time tweaking and changing because of the different opportunities that are coming up. Okay. So does that mean you're spending, so you said you want to get to 50%, but you're not getting to 50% because you're not generating enough revenue that would then warrant you doing 50%, so you're reliant on the training to try and keep you going. So it's more of a case of then that trust in your services to be able to grow within the consultancy. So what's holding back? You've talked about niching. What's going on in your mind? What's going on in the marketplace?
Yeah, so I think at the moment, my consultancy clients that I currently have, I found through the training that I already deliver, or recommendations of people who've recommended me for training. And actually, when we've got into conversations, it's turned out we're going to start with a consultancy before we come into the training. And that's how it's kind of developed. But I think what I'm now finding is that I'm spending, yes, I spend a lot of time doing delivery of training. Yes, that's still a larger proportion of my time. But even within the consultancy, 30% is delivery. I haven't got time at the moment to do that lead generation. And my thoughts around that have gone into, is it because I'm so broad? I'm having to work on the delivery and tweak those things, and sometimes adding new parts that are going to suit that particular sector, the more different sectors that I work in, because my services will work for any sector. Okay, they have relevance in all business and all services that are, public services or any sector that you work in, really. And so am I biting off more than I can chew? Because what I'm doing is
Yeah.
I'm developing that bit rather than bringing in more people,
Yes.
if you know what I mean.
And when you go with a consultancy, do you have an offer? Can you actually say, this is what we offer? Because you're also talking about your tweaking as well. So how do you go to market with your offer? What is it?
So that's how we started it. So I started with, we have our offering to allow for them to be legally compliant, because there are certain things that organizations need to have in place, such as risk assessments and things like that. So we deliver that as part of the consultancy service. We also then have a program of starting point. We do reviews of structure and policies, and then
Okay.
we
So
obviously make those changes.
yeah, and jump in there. That's delivery. The
Yeah.
offer is what the marketplace sees. The offer is what they go, oh yes, we want that. And if your offer is too broad, how would they pick you? Why would they pick you? Why would they want for you to walk through their door and at least start having a conversation, i.e. a sales conversation through that? So what's your offer, your go-to market then with the consultancy? Is it just too many things, do you think?
Potentially, because there are a couple of different messages. There is improving your well-being of your staff, reducing your attrition rates, reducing your sickness and absence rates, improving productivity, all of the things that all the data says. If you've got a good culture and working
Absolutely.
environment, you're going to generate
Yeah.
that. But there's also legal compliance as well.
Yeah.
So
So So maybe each one of these different sectors has a different need around that, and it's your go-to-market. And you won't know till you test it, absolutely. But maybe what you're doing is you're giving a broad spectrum type solution rather than actually they want to wake up in the morning and go, I've got a productivity problem. Someone's just come across my desk and look at this, it's all about productivity. Or I have a staff absenteeism problem. Focusing on a specific message, a specific thing will help them rather than say, look, this is what we can do. We can fix this, 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 and this. Once you're in the door, that's a different level of conversation, but you just got to get in the door first. So maybe what you're doing is you're trying to solve too many problems at once and they're not understanding that mixed message. Because for us, we know exactly what we do. We live it every day. We know precisely how we can solve all those problems. Yeah. But to them, we're just saying, oh, you can do this, 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 and this. You're not known for anything. So therefore, it's difficult for people to then latch on to a specific, which is hard, but that's what niching is. Niching maybe isn't just about niching as a sector. And niching is actually saying, this is what we're brilliant at. This is what we always talk about. This is what we can achieve for you. Yes, underneath you can do a lot more and there's a big program to make that deliver. But that's more what niching is about, is your go-to-market, your story. What does that say to you?
Yeah, I think probably we have gone a bit too broad and trying to tick all of the, we can do this and we can do that and we can do this and we probably have gone maybe overboard. Because if I think about it, what happened, I read all of the research because I was already using that research to promote my training, and actually a lot of it also talks about the infrastructure, and so then I just took that data and used that to drive a message. But you're right, there are a number of different messages that it's giving, and it might not be reading to everybody, because they're like, whoa, that's a lot. Just park that to one side. Or the message that they pick up on might not be the one that's relevant to them.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
And that's difficult because we want to get all the message in front of them just in case. But it is then hard to go to market because you've got 4 different messages. You've got 4 different ways of talking about things. You've got 4 different things on your website. How many websites do you go to and you see 6 or 7 things? And we do this and we do this and we do this. And actually, what's the one big problem that you could solve? The purpose of that is just to open the door, so then you can then have a conversation. That's when you can present the detail of everything you do and the changes and the opportunities, etc. That's fine. That's absolutely brilliant. So all that research you've done is there. Once you get the conversation going, you just got to get the conversation first. Saying really focus might help you to really have that go-to-market, which is niching, but it's not niching in the same way as you were thinking. Maybe you were thinking about niching around different sectors, but actually niching might just be niching on your message.
Yeah, that's a really good point. Definitely something I'm gonna take away and have a think about, what's going to be the strongest message. And we'll, yeah, definitely. Thank you.
And you won't know until you try. That's the thing. Yeah. We can spend too much thinking and we learn through experimentation. The market responds by it actually talking back to you. So you have to get there first with something and start experimenting and seeing. And that's exactly what we've done with A Stronger Business Together. We've simplified everything. We only have one product and service. We only have one go-to-market. We only have one structures that we talk about, because we realized that we were also doing far too much and trying to shout into the wind, where now we're trying to be very focused. So it's good thoughts there. I always like to know, what's one experiment that you could do this week to actually see if this idea might start to bear fruit for you?
So I'm going to look at some of the key different messages, and then I'm going to pick them in order as to which ones I'm going to trial first, and figure out how am I going to measure that coming back in. So how do I measure if that's the right message or not? So I need to put a bit of thought and planning around that, so that I can then start testing out some of those different messages, I think.
Yeah. And here's the reality. The reality is, we believe in a principle called growth through challenge. So that's one of our 4 fundamental principles for a business. What we mean by that is, you may not know what the outcome of that is for maybe 6 months of continuous trying. So you have to focus, you have to go based on gut instinct. You have to go based on all the data and analysis you've done. You have to pick something and you have to throw your weight behind it, knowing that at some point it will happen, because that's what the really successful business do. You just have to fight through those difficult times, like, oh, maybe I'll just change the message today because I haven't heard anything back. Yeah, you have to trust your instinct, do the analysis, work out where you want to go, and go for it.
Perfect. Yes, I'm going to go away and do that. Thank you.
Awesome. Brilliant. Right, so let's go to our wrap up and close now. So, Claire, what did you hear yourself say today that maybe surprised you?
Probably, the I don't have to be the person that does everything, because it is a message I have to keep reminding myself. So when you ask that direct question, I'm like, right, okay, I've really got to, yes, I cannot do all of it, and I cannot do all of it well either. So yes, that's probably the biggest surprise for me, that I'm able to keep bringing that back and reminding myself.
Oh, thank you for your honesty. That's brilliant. Fantastic. So finally, Claire, where can people find you if they want to follow more on your journey?
So they can find me on LinkedIn, so Claire Bennett on LinkedIn. They can find us on our website, so hornbeamtraining.co.uk, where you'll be able to see all of our kind of different services. We're also on other socials, okay, so we're all over the TikTok and whatnot, so you'll find it under Hornbeam Training if you're looking for us on any of the other social platforms.
Well, fantastic, Claire. Thank you so much for being open and honest with us today. And I know our listeners will take a lot from this great conversation. It's been fantastic. Thank you.
Thank you so much for having me, Granger. Thank you.
Thank you for spending your time with us today. We're on a mission to make business owners stronger together. If this conversation helped you, please like, comment and follow on whatever platform you're using. These small actions help us reach more business owners just like you. If you want to join the conversation as a guest or have a hurdle question for us to tackle, then reach out at info@strongerbusinesstogether.com. Now, go make your week successful, and we'll see you in the next one.